So, going back on the conversation of that 2015 Buick Regal that I have at the shop, I priced out all the parts and everything for the block cleaning and the head cleaning and everything to be able to give the guy a quote on the cost for the parts so he could end up giving me the money to buy the parts. He just dropped off the check for me, and he kind of wanted to see it. He didn't know that I had already torn it down that much. So I went through and I explained to him like the basics of how it works, what happened, and so he can kind of get an understanding as to why his engine needed to be rebuilt instead of buying a new engine. He wanted to rebuild it because he wanted longevity. He wanted to basically have the knowledge, knowing that everything inside of the engine was brand new. Anyway, that's beside the point. So we were going through, and I was explaining to him how the piston itself would blow a ringland like that, and I explained to him, in these boosted applications, even if they're 100% stock, these boosted applications, if they do not have the proper air-fuel mixture, the cylinders have a tendency to overheat, and what that'll do is it'll end up blowing a ringland. I've actually had it happen on an engine or three of my own vehicles where I've upgraded and put a supercharger on it, and the tuning went through and we didn't tune it properly and didn't get enough fuel in it, ended up overheating the engine or overheating the cylinders, and it caused a couple of ringlands to blow. So I've actually already witnessed this firsthand and knowing exactly what causes this. Well, my vehicle is it's a Mopar. It's a Dodge vehicle. This vehicle is a Chevy vehicle. There are two differences between these two that a lot of people who don't really know about boosted applications or even just vehicle maintenance in itself on these engines and stuff is, unlike Chevy, Dodge does not use what's called a mass airflow sensor. All they have is an air intake temp sensor and a MAP, or a manifold absolute pressure sensor. And that's kind of how, like, when tuning goes on these aftermarket setups like I have, that's kind of how they have to do it. On GM, they do use a mass airflow sensor, and that sensor is part of the system that tells the computer how much airflow is going into the engine. And based off of that, that's how the computer knows, okay, we got this much air, then we need to do this much fuel. On stock applications, on like a stock boosted car, whether it be a Chevy Cruze with the 1.4 ecotec motor, or the 2.0 ecotec motor, or any of those GM vehicles that have a stock turbo to them, the Chevy Trax, Chevy Cruzes, Buick Regals, Buick Encores, Buick Enclaves, all of those vehicles, the newer ones that use a turbo on the smaller engines, have a mass airflow sensor, and they have it for a reason. The reason is for the computer to know exactly what the flow rate of the intake has, along with the manifold absolute pressure sensor, to be able to send the signal correctly from the computer to know how much fuel it's supposed to add or pull away, so that it gets that perfect stoichiometric ratio on the boosted application. Well, in explaining this to the customer, I come to find out that the customer's son a couple of months ago put a cold air intake on this car, basically eliminating the air box, air filter, the tube that goes to the turbo itself and everything for the air filter setup. So basically he took all the stock out and he put an aftermarket cold air intake on it with a cone style filter. And I believe, I don't like dogging on them, but I believe it was a Spectral, which is like an Amazon special, or you can get it cheaply at like O'Reilly's or whatever. Whatever, people do their own thing. The problem was he disconnected the mass airflow sensor and they drove it around like that, and then ended up having those engine issues. So he put the stock system back in it and it still ended up running like crap. Now, I'm not 100% guaranteeing that that was the issue that caused it, but if he disconnected that mass airflow sensor, that poor computer doesn't know what it's getting aside from the signal that it's getting from the manifold absolute pressure sensor to be able to know what it's getting for air. so that it can determine how much fuel it needs to give or take in order for that engine to run at optimal running capacity. So if he disconnected that mass airflow sensor, now the computer doesn't have any idea how much airflow it's getting. It has to go off of just the manifold absolute pressure sensor. And unfortunately, on these GM vehicles, it's not enough. They need that mass airflow sensor to be able to detect how much airflow is going into that engine to be able to give it the proper amount of fuel. So if it didn't know that it was getting how much air it was, the computer's like, okay, maybe we're getting too much air. So it starts pulling fuel. Well, in the process of it pulling fuel, while it's still getting all that air, especially in a turbo setup or a boosted application, whether it be a turbo or a supercharger, now you're getting too much air, not enough fuel. What does that do? That causes excess heat in the combustion chamber. And when that happens, the weakest links end up taking a hit for it. And in the cases of most of these, because of the fact that the pistons are not forged, they're just simply made of aluminum, and unfortunately they're probably not gapped the best on the rings, the ringland just finally decided to let loose. It couldn't handle the heat anymore, so it popped. Then the engine started running bad. The kid noticed it, put the original stuff back in it. Now the computer knows, hey, okay, now we're getting this amount of air, so it started running properly again. Now granted, all 4 of the ringlands didn't take a crap on all 4 cylinders, it was just one. But by that time, he had already noticed the issue that he was having with the vehicle, put the stock air intake back on there, plugged the mass airflow sensor back in there, and the computer was like, oh, okay, well now we're running correctly. If you actually look at the pistons, you can tell that they're a little discolored, I would say. Now, yes, you're going to have discoloration because of the fact that you've got combustion in there, which means that you have air, fuel, and spark. Causes an explosion. So yes, you're going to have some burn marks and everything like that. But you can also see, especially on cylinder 2, it has a little bit more than a little bit of burn marks. The piston's black. And it's not just from the excess oil and the excess burning and all that stuff. It is black as in carbon, as in it's gotten way too hot inside of that cylinder. So on the next thing that we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up pulling the block out, because I already took the head off to show them everything. We're going to pull the block off, and we're going to end up tearing the block completely apart. Once we do that, we'll be able to understand a little bit more about it. See if the block has any damage, if there's a broken sleeve, because these newer style engines, the 1.4s, the 2.0s, some of the 2.4s, whether it be GM or Ford, or even some of the Mopar stuff, you know, like the Caliber SRTs, the non-SRTs, the 2.4 liters, the all those newer style engines, they have cylinder sleeves in them. So we're going to end up pulling the pistons out. We're going to see if there's any damage to the sleeves. Hopefully not, because if we do, then we end up needing to find a new block. But we're going to start with that. I'm going to end up ordering the new parts either tonight or this weekend, and we're going to get all that stuff in, and we're going to start tearing the old stuff apart, clean the block as best as we can, make it look new, maybe paint it, and then start assembling the new stuff. Now, something that the factories don't do that I will be doing is I'm going to gap the rings. Yes, we're going back to another stock turbo. We're going to be replacing the turbo with a brand new one, but it's going to be a stock turbo. But either way, it's peace of mind for me. Better compression for it. We're going to gap the rings to probably about 26 thousandths, maybe 28, depending on what we feel like. And then we're going to be putting all brand new internal parts, pistons, rods, crankshaft, bearings, head bolts, gaskets, you know, the whole 9, new lifters, new rocker arms. We're probably going to end up putting a new valve cover on it because it's got a PCV built into it. So probably put a new one on that. We're going to end up replacing some of the intake tubing and everything like that for the PCV system, because of the fact that they are completely full of oil. That cylinder 2 was so bad that it was literally just dripping oil when I pulled the head off. There was a puddle, and you could tell because the whole entire intake box, the intake manifold, the turbo, the PCV system, completely all full of oil coming from cylinder 2. So anyway, bear with me when I go with that. Like I said, we're going to be pulling the block out here in a couple of days. I will make a video once the block is out of me tearing it down, showing you guys exactly what is what, all the things that failed. Probably end up finding metal inside the oil pan and everything like that. We'll go through, we'll explain what happens, why that happens, and probably showing you guys the bearings and seeing exactly in what condition they are, the crankshaft, so on and so forth. Mind you, the only reason we're changing all of the internal parts, whether it be bearings, crankshaft, oil pump, rods, is simply because there is a crap load of metal shavings in the oil as it is. When you have that much stuff in there, you can guarantee that it's already made its way through all the oil galleries, through the crankshaft, the holes in the crankshaft, probably, done some damage to the rod bearings, done some damage to the crank bearings. So we're just going to go through and we're just going to safety, rest assured, change everything so that way we don't have to worry about it. I'll also probably do a video and showing you about clearances, oil clearances and everything like that with our little clearance things, the little green sticks. We're going to do some of that too, just so you guys can kind of get a feel if you guys end up doing this much work to your own vehicle, so you can kind of understand what the do's and don'ts are of it, what clearances you should have, what you shouldn't have, how to know if it's too far gone and everything like that, and letting you know when it might be time for an engine rebuild as well. So stay good on that. Look for the future videos that I will be posting on this 2015 Buick Regal with a 2.0 turbo ecotec engine. If you have a vehicle similar with the same kind of issues and stuff like that, this might help you. And if not, you guys can always ask me questions. Leave a comment, like the post, send me a message, subscribe to the channel, whatever, anything that you guys want to do. I also do work on other people's vehicles. I have a shop in Clear Lake, Iowa. It's Kramer's Auto Repair. You can look me up on Google, YouTube, my Facebook page, everything like that. I always take on new work. I work on any year, make, and model. It does not matter. I mean, hell, I work on boats. I work on lawnmowers, anything with an engine. I'll take care of you, okay? So don't hesitate. Hit me up, drop a line, whatever the case may be. If you just have any generalized questions on anything, you need a diag done, or if you need a full-on repair, I do anything from engines to transmissions, routine maintenance, overhauls, anything, performance. I do upgraded performance as well. I do have somebody that I do remote tuning with, so we can get you to some aftermarket upgraded parts, get you a little bit more power, torque out of your vehicle, and I can also get it tuned for you. It's a one-stop shop. We do everything you need to do, okay? So like I said, hit the like button, follow, subscribe, whatever you want to any of my pages, my Facebook, my business page on Google, my YouTube videos, everything like that. Go ahead and like and comment, subscribe, anything you guys got. All right, that's it for now. From Travis from Kramer's Auto Repair. Have a great day, guys.